Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Inside Lines and the first episode in the month of March. My name is Jet, and hope we're all having a wonderful day, or at least try to have the best day considering what's going on around the world. If you haven't already, before we jump into today's episode, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more content. Really appreciate it. The channel is booming. Like it has. I'm surprised by the amount of support I've had just this past month. It's been the best in quite a long time. I'm now starting to get back into the loop of things, being more consistent with my uploads, and it seems that y'all are enjoying the quality and the product, so I'm happy to see that. We do have a lot of stories to talk about. This is going to be a jam-packed episode. Unfortunately, a lot of the stories are going to have to revolve around a certain Eggman that is basically acting like an asshole. Yeah, that's going to be later on in the show. But first, let's get into it with our Inside the Lines rapid fire. 2003 NASCAR Cup Series champion Matt Kenseth will join the SRX in the summer for 3 races at Nashville, I-55, and Sharon Speedway. Also, the defending champion of the SRX, owner Tony Stewart, will return full-time, as well as Hailie Deegan, who will compete in 2 races in the SRX in Stafford and I-55. Max Verstappen will not only enter 2022 as the defending Formula 1 world champion, but will also enter with a brand new contract extension he signed with Red Bull Racing for 5 years that will pay him around $50 million. That's according to Adam Stern, which will make it one of the highest contracts in F1 history and makes him one of the richest athletes in the world. And by the way, he's only 24 years old. Jesus Christ. And finally, and this is real good news, when the NASCAR community, what they're doing to show their support for Ukraine. They have allowed that all teams can show their support basically on their race cards in support of Ukraine, whether it's a paint scheme or wording. Obviously, it still has to make sure it's approved by NASCAR, but they will allow that. I don't know if it's just for this weekend, but at least for the foreseeable future. Now, Rick Hendrick and Hendrick Automotive Group have committed $200,000 to the Samaritan's Purse of Ukraine Relief. HMS will add $2,000 to their contribution for each lap led at Las Vegas this weekend. The charity's website will also be prominently displayed on Kyle Larson's race car. And finally, and this is probably the most Richard Childress thing. I mean, he's doing a great thing, a fantastic thing, but this is so on brand for Richard Childress. So he was on Fox and Friends, some program, and he announced that he is pledged to send 1 million rounds of ammunition to Ukraine as soldiers and citizens defend their country from the Russian military. He will team up with Ammo Incorporated, and Childress is working with several government agencies on getting the ammunition delivered, but said a private courier will be needed to get to Ukraine quickly. Now, the reason why I'm chuckling about this is because, again, if you don't know Richard Childress, you might think, oh, wow, this is surprising. But if you do know Richard Childress and you do know the things that he loves 2 things, racing, or 3 things, racing, hunting, and guns. This doesn't surprise me, not one bit. So that's why I was like kind of chuckling. I thought, okay, this is expected, but great thing what he's doing, and also great overall, the people in the NASCAR community doing their efforts to show their support for Ukraine as well as everyone else around the world. And speaking of Ukraine, because of the Russian invasion, it's also having its effect heavily in Formula 1, specifically with its driver Nikita Mazepin, the lone Russian driver on the F1 grid. He is with Haas F1, and it looks like his time there may be coming up. According to Sky Germany, Nikita Mazepin is expected to be dropped from Haas F1 and will be replaced by its reserve driver, Pietro Fittipaldi, ahead of preseason testing in Bahrain. Now, this just comes a couple days, maybe even a day after Motorsport UK announced that no Russian or Belarusian drivers will be allowed to race in the United Kingdom. Doesn't matter what series you're in, you're not allowed to race in the UK if you're from Russia or Belarus. So because of that, Mazepin was already, if he were to stay in F1, would not be allowed to compete in the British Grand Prix. Not just drivers, just athletes in general. So this is a big thing. I mean, this is just one of numerous, loads and loads of examples of Russia basically getting canceled by the world, which, who would have thought? I hate cancel culture with a passion, but now I don't mind it so much. Now, there are a lot of people that are questioning about the decision on whether to get rid of people that had nothing, or get rid of Russians that had nothing to do with the war to begin with, removing them from basically the world. I'm not going to dive into that. It's a very touchy subject, but with Nikita Mazepin, it is, I don't want to say it's understandable, but I'm not surprised considering the fact that his sponsor, I think it's 𝙎𝙬𝙍𝙍, I think that's how you pronounce it, they have a lot of connections with Putin. Back in 2014, they elected a prominent Putin ally as one of its board chairmen. So yeah, when you have a Russian company with connections to Putin, especially during this time, you're going to want to distance yourself from anything even remotely touching Putin. Even if he's within 10 feet of you, get away from him. So I am not surprised by this decision. I think this was when this war was first, or this invasion was first beginning. I'm pretty sure everyone expected, at least in Formula One, I'm just talking about Formula One specifically, that okay, Mazepin, he may not be able to even step foot in Bahrain in a Haas F1 car. So to see him potentially, again, nothing's been confirmed. It's just been reported that he will not be part of Haas F1. More than likely, he's going to get fired. Me personally, I'm happy about this. I mean, if you remember my video, pretty sure last year on my thoughts on Nikita Mazepin, y'all know I'm not a big fan of him. So I don't mind this decision. I'm not surprised by this decision. But to go with Pietro Fittipaldi, I mean, I get it. He is the reserve driver. He's in the factory at Haas F1. It makes sense, but I don't know. I would have preferred to go on someone like Nico Hülkenberg. Would have been a better option as a veteran to maybe help, Mick Schumacher, or you can go with another youngster and Oscar Piastri, who I don't know if you noticed, but he won the F2 championship last year and now doesn't have a ride. I don't know. Those are just two drivers I would have picked before Pietro Fittipaldi, but again, I understand it. Reserve driver, been inside the factory at Haas F1, it makes sense. But yeah, again, I'm not gonna touch the subject on if it's fair to ban drivers or just ban athletes in general from Russia even though they had nothing to do with the war. I understand why some people may be against it. I understand why some people may be for that change, but I think with Mazepin, considering the fact that basically the only reason why he's even in that seat to begin with is because of his sponsor. And if his sponsor has huge connections to Putin, again, it's not surprising to see him get booted out, because if his company or 𝙎𝙬𝙍𝙍, however you pronounce it, if they are forced to be pulled out, well, then Mazepin's not going to be in the ride. Simple as that. So I think the writing was on the wall that they're going to end the termination of the sponsorship soon, I believe. And with that, Mazepin will be gone from Haas F1. Not only that, and not only will Russian drivers not able to race in the UK, Formula One itself will not be racing in Russia for the foreseeable future. They announced on Thursday that they have terminated their contract with the Russian promoter to host the F1 Grand Prix in Russia. Now, the contract itself was scheduled to extend through 2025, I believe, and they were actually going to host the final two races at a different venue in Russia compared to having it in Sochi. Now, I'm happy for the change, and I believe there's even another statement there somewhere that says that till the foreseeable future, or as long as Putin is still in power, F1 will not race in Russia, which, number one, I am happy with. Number one, Sochi was a horrible racetrack in general, but still, regardless, this is a great thing that F1 is doing to because of Putin's actions. Consequences. I know it doesn't really do much in the landscape of stopping the war, but at least F1 is doing their part to get away from Russia, make sure Russia literally gets no promotion, gets none of that stuff. And it's kind of awesome to see how the world is basically canceling Russia in a sense. I mean, I love it, but man, I feel for the people in Ukraine. I mean, I know it's not much, but all I can say is send my thoughts and prayers out to the people of Ukraine, and hopefully this can end on a good note and end with Ukraine taking their country back and Russia surrendering. I mean, it's just a horrible situation what's happening down there. And now we end our episode with NASCAR. I know, it's weird transitioning, but last weekend at Fontana was arguably one of the best Fontana races since it was built ever. And probably one of the best NASCAR races in a long, long time. Well, it was all good except for one thing. Obviously, it was flat tires. Remember, with this next-gen car, when a car gets a flat tire, there are no inner liners. So when a tire goes flat, it goes right to the rim. And because of that, a lot of drivers didn't want to risk driving back to pit road with basically three wheels and risk further damaging the race car, NASCAR decided to come up with a new idea and have them being towed back to pit road. Now, the issue with that is that it takes such a long time, and drivers easily lose multiple laps depending on where they're positioned. They could lose from maybe 2 to even 4 or 5 laps. They could be down because of getting towed back to pit road. And a lot of fans and drivers, basically everyone, saying there needs to be a solution as soon as possible. But it looks like it won't be this weekend at Vegas, or at least for the next couple weeks. 𝙁𝙄𝙍𝙍, who is the vice president of officiating and technical inspection at NASCAR, he said, quote, "There are ongoing conversations and meetings to be able to get a better place on that. We made an adjustment last week at 𝙁𝙗𝙍𝙍 to lead the drivers in and get them back to pit road. Our goal is not to put drivers out of the race. That's not what we want. We want our stars to be able to perform. It's just some learnings, and we felt that we got to a decent place on Sunday to not like that be a storyline. We will continue to evaluate that. I know John Probst and his staff are looking at what adjustments we can make in the short term and something that we could alleviate some of those issues." Now, I've discussed this in my post-race show, so I'm not going to further just repeat what I said in that episode on Sunday, but it's my issue with this is the fact that this was an issue for months prior to the season. This has been an issue ever since it was announced that they were going to be going to 18-inch wheels and not have interliners anymore. Ever since that announcement was made, this was going to be a problem. And the fact that nothing had been done from then till now, very disappointing. I would understand this was something that NASCAR didn't know, or this was, oh, we didn't even think about that. But the fact that this was known for months, maybe even a year now, more than a year, this was known that this would be an issue. The fact that no change has been made is very disappointing. And sorry, but this is all on NASCAR. NASCAR should have thought this through, but they didn't. So now we're going to have to deal with this for the next couple weeks. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I just hope that when a car gets sideways and they spin and are able to keep on going, because it sucks when you see drivers spin, get a flat tire, and it takes them automatically out of the race. It's possible to get back in the race, but still, I mean, you can go 4, 5, 6 laps down, sometimes DNF based off of a flat tire. It's very unfair, but we'll have to wait and see what happens not only this weekend at Vegas, but Phoenix and Atlanta and Texas, days after that. It should be very interesting to see how this whole saga of flat tires with the next gen car goes. But yeah, that's going to be our episode of Inside the Lines. It's a very depressing episode. I mean, we talked about, mainly, again, like I said, majority of our episode has been talking about Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, again, thoughts of prayers go out to the people of Ukraine. Putin, you can go rot. Those are my just 2 cents. You can go rot in hell. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Jet. See y'all next time.